So, basic idea for every single confidence interval, this doesn't really change. We have our statistic, which in this case, our statistic, well, we would do a 2-sample t-interval when we're trying to estimate the difference between two groups, okay? So my statistic for mu1 minus mu2 is x bar 1 minus x bar 2. It's the difference between my two means, okay? My critical value is a t-star, just like the t-stars we were doing the other day, okay?
I'm sorry, Mr. McCarthy is holding me captive.
He's the worst.
He is.
Okay? My standard deviation of the statistic is that standard error formula, which is on the back of your formula sheet. Okay? Is everybody good? In terms of, now, are you going to calculate these by hand? Nah. Nah. Okay? So, procedurally, this is going to feel very, very similar. Now, when we check that random condition, now it could be assignment or sample. And if I have random sampling, I'll check that independence condition using the 10% condition. Okay? If I check by using random sampling, then I'm going to do that individual responses are independent. What do you guys think the normal condition is going to be?
Is it not 30 for both?
It's either N1 greater than or equal to 30, or population 1, or no skewness or outliers for the first group. And you just do it for both. And it could be any variation of that, right? So you're basically checking the normal condition for both samples instead of just one. All right, now, the difference between a paired t-interval and a 2-sample t-interval is whether or not you have something that pairs the data together, okay? So remember, like when we were talking about, you do a 2-sample procedure. That's the difference, okay? All right. So I'm going to go ahead and let you guys give this a little ready read. All right. Hey guys, observational study or experiment? Are you manipulating them?
No.
When you flip the coin, what happens when you flip the coin? You're either doing automatic, you with me, Sos?
Yeah, but like, even though they're not
without you just watching their, does not matter.
But like, so those of you that think it's an experiment, what are our two treatments in this case?
The refill or just automatic?
The automatic refill or asking do they want refills, right? So you're manipulating the subjects and then the response that you're looking for from them is the, so I think this is an experiment with automatic versus asking are the treatments. Okay, guys, and whenever we talk about this, describe those treatments in context. Okay, like if I say explain, don't just say there are treatments, just say what the treatments are. Okay? How does this influence the conclusions we can make? What are we going to be allowed to conclude since we have random assignment of treatments?
That the random the random condition.
So the conclusion will be affected because now we can conclude cause and effect.
And can we assume that customers like this would also have?
Yes, so we're going to make our conclusion for customers such as the ones at this table, on this evening or whatever, that he measures his tips. Okay? How are we feeling so far? Sweet. All right, now, are we allowed, so here's the table, and look, if you look at these sample sizes are not the same. Is that okay? Yes, it's totally okay to have sample sizes that are not the same. Okay? Now, as we kind of think through this, before when we calculated our T star, I just emptied a box of hangers there and forgot to throw that away. That's all. That's all it is. Okay? As we calculated our T star before, we used degrees of freedom. Which sample size do I use?
Do you have different
Maybe you got like
S1? Oh, is it the, do you
It's like
combine
the
them?
What's not, is it the no.
Do you just like add
Divided
the
by
same?
2? Yeah, thank you.
Wait, Miss Messier, do you just add the 65 and the 52 together?
No. So if you are calculating this by hand, you would use the smaller of the two samples to calculate your degrees of freedom. Okay, because that's the safer one. It's gonna, if you use the smaller sample, you'll have a wider margin of error. Okay. However, when you type these into your calculator, which is how we're actually going to do this, there is a fancy formula that your calculator will use. You just write down the degrees of freedom off your calculator. Yes.
What does degrees of freedom really mean? Or like, what is that in relation to everything else we've been?
The formula for standard deviation is when you calculate standard deviation, you divide by n minus 1 so that the center of the standard deviations matches the population standard deviation.
Right, okay, yeah.
Because I said so.
Okay, cool.
Can we go with I said so?
Yes, I'm fine with that.
It's a much more complicated answer than you want, I promise.
Okay.
It basically, remember how we said S is a crappy estimator of sigma?
Yeah.
Okay. So one of the reasons is if you repeatedly take samples, the mean of all the standard deviations is not equal to the standard deviation of the population. And so the standard deviation is a biased estimator, but somehow when you do n minus 1 as your degrees of freedom, that balances it out. That's all I got.
Cool. That'll work.
Trust me, not worth it. Okay. Not worth the explanation. Okay. You guys ready? So, What do you guys want to do?
What is this called? Like a,
Two simple T intervals
oh,
for mu1.
I see it right at the top there.
All right, so we're going to do a 2 sample t interval. For mu auto minus mu ask. Noticing I'm using the subscripts to make sense. And the only reason I did auto minus asking is because you guys tend to like positive numbers better than negative numbers. You could do it the other way around. It wouldn't be a big deal at all. Okay? Where mu auto equals the true mean tip amount for auto refilling. Any of you guys servers? Do you automatically refill people's water glasses and stuff, or do you just ask them if they want more?
I just ask, yeah. 'Cause a lot of times they'll say no. I guess I do more with water. Like if it's another drink, I never just like give it to them. But if it's a water, sometimes I'll just automatically.
Do you guys charge extra, or like, is that just into like buying another drink if you could do a refill?
Oh no, it's free refills.
Okay.
It probably depends on what it is, right? For like the smoothies, I would imagine it's not,
Yeah.
but for soda it is. Most of the time, most fountain sodas restaurants do for free.
But even for like the tea we make and our coffee, that's all free refills too.
Coffee's usually free refills. Tea, I feel like it depends on whether or not you're using tea bags versus like a tea that you've already pre-made.
I guess like,
For all of it, I think is free refills.
I'm not very convinced that alchemy is just like, you buy a thing and then
Yeah.
you get it, you know, it's not like we wait on anything.
Yeah, it's an interesting question that when you think about there are people for whom their livelihood, like, is serving is their career, and when you're working for tips, it is an important kind of what do you do to maximize your tips and whatnot. So, has the random condition met?
Yes, the treatments are on the inside.
I'm gonna just say coin flip to assign treatments. Again, the more specific we are, the better. Okay? What about that normal condition?
They're greater than or equal to them.
So you're going to say n asking equals 52 and auto equals 65. Those are in fact greater than or equal to 30. Okay, so again, that level of specificity is helpful. Okay, independent?
Just check the 10%.
Nope, because we don't have random sampling.
Individual.
We're going to say individual tip amounts are independent. I would listen to an argument against that for sure.
Argument against individual tip amounts are.
Yeah, let's say there's like 3 checks from one table. Chances are those people all tip about the same amount because people who are friends typically have similar spending habits. Unless it's me and my dad. I tip much higher than my dad, you guys. He's not a good tipper. The best is he thinks he is.
What?
Waiter's very low.
Not you do.
Yeah, because like
Green.
waiters, I literally make like $2 an hour. So like if I don't, I went table the other week, so I was at work and made for 5 hours and made no money.
Wait, actually.
Wait, what?
See, Masa at least keeps us above like
Oh
minimum
yeah,
wage.
no, if I don't have any tables, then I just work for under minimum wage.
That's a
Yeah,
lot.
It's like $4.
Yeah.
Cause you make her like a lot more.
Yeah, what I do get taxed. Frustrating.
Well, there's a reason that the service industry is also shorthanded a lot right now is the lack of dependability on income because there are nights where you don't get any tables. Yeah.
And especially at my work, they just started, they take our tips at the end of the night
Oh.
instead of letting us go home.
I
So
know.
now my tips are all getting like taxed and stuff, which is kind of,
That's
then also like what's the point, because.
All right. Now what? What do you guys think we're probably going to look for to come up with how to get this actual interval? How have we done just about everything in this box? Stat, arrow over to tests. Okay? So if you go ahead and hit stat and arrow over to tests. And I think it's option 0, 2 sample t int. Go ahead and pick that. Now, in this case, we have the summary statistics. Which one should I put in for x bar 1?
65.
X.
Bar.
1.33.
Oh,
Nine.
I'm just kidding.
Because we're doing auto minus.
Oh yeah.
So we set this up that we're doing auto minus ask. So x bar 1, you need to put in the automatic. And before I do anything, before I even type it in, I wrote it down. Because that's my way of knowing I'm writing down all the information that I need to. Okay, so then, because we're going to start getting a lot of numbers, and it's really easy to forget that you need to write them down. So sometimes I just get in the habit of writing them down as I type them in so that I don't forget anything. And I will show you guys a picture of my screen once I have everything typed in. Now, where it says pooled, that basically is, do we want to combine the samples into one big one? And that answer is absolutely not. We'll never pool. Okay? We just never do. So this is what your screen should look like.
Is the confidence just 95?
I think I said 94.
Oh, I see.
Everybody okay? Can I take this off now?
Oh, yeah.
All right, so I go down, I hit enter, hit calculate. Guys, I found the actual interval to be 0.243 to 1.998. How are we feeling? Is this okay? Now, what is this beyond the beyond the formal conclusion? As you guys read this, what does that mean to you now that we have this interval?
We are 94%.
Beyond the formal. Okay?
Automatically reselling makes you more money than asking,
Why?
because it's completely positive.
Okay. And so, does that mean your tip amounts are going to be somewhere between 24 cents and $2?
No, that's just the difference.
It is just the difference. This is how much more money the server could make for auto versus asking. You guys with me? Now, Soci, I made up these numbers. Do not think that this is hardcore data from which you should change your serving patterns. Okay? Because I made these up. Okay, now.
Even if you didn't, I probably wouldn't do that because that sounds like a lot more work.
Oh boy, come on, Meister. I'm smarter than that. This is a confidence interval, and Anna had already started the right way to do it. We are 94% confident. I didn't do it, sir.
I know.
I'll go. I have a fourth period study hall, so I can go home and get my lunch.
Beautiful, thank you, and sorry again.
Oh no, it's all good.
When you're going out to eat, do you prefer the server automatically refill things or ask you if you want to refill?
Ask me, cause I hate to waste things. So if I don't want it, I don't wanna waste it.
Yeah.
It's interesting, cause we did go out last night and we got a server that we've had quite a few times, and so we've now basically become friends. And she said the thing that she despises is when she asks if you want things, that people will cut her off before she gets through her sentence.
That's
I said,
rude.
I won't do that. I did, that's what I said.
That's really rude.
It is.
People do that surprisingly, like a lot. I had one table and I was literally just introducing myself and then he cut me off and was like, I want coffee. And I was like, you just sat down, I'm just saying my name is Soci, like.
That's what she said. She says it's
Yeah.
always during that. She's trying to be pleasant and introduce herself, and they're like, "Oh, I want."
Yeah. I'm like, okay.
When it's coffee, if it's like morning and someone's like, I need coffee, as a person who needs coffee,
You would never do.
of course I would never do
It was
that.
7
I
o'clock.
understand what you're saying, but you
It was 7 o'clock at night. And I was like, oh my gosh.
were they old? Like bedtime was at 7:30, and they didn't have time to
I
waste.
mean, they looked like mid 60s.
Hey now.
There's still no excuse.
One person in this room was sitting on the couch at 7:30 last night and going, is it 8 o'clock yet? Can I go to bed?
Hey, I'm not gonna lie, that happens every once in a while.
That happens to me daily.
No, I can't say.
Next week, struggle bus, Olivia. We're going to do it together. You ready?
No, for real. I don't know.
Tech week for the show.
Oh,
We're here late next week.
You're up late, no matter what.
Yeah. Well, so this question Mr. Hinkle was trying to decide, would a server make more tips if they automatically refill so people feel just taken care of or not?
But I feel like, I don't know, I would be like, oh, like it would almost be an overstep, you know, like what if I didn't want it?
Maybe we should have Soci run this exact experiment.
No, literally, we
I
should.
could do it.
I'd be curious.
Although I wouldn't want you to
I
sacrifice
feel
your
like I
tips.
wouldn't change my tips based on this. It's more like the friendliness of the.
Yeah.
Like subconsciously, like if
Yeah,
someone
it
just
just-
keeps coming back and like,
You're just like, wow.
Although
they
some
care.
people do get like really annoyed if I'm like there, like I'll come back and I'll be like, do you guys want anything? And they're like, no. And then I feel upset.
There is like a delicate balance
Yeah.
of like if I'm having a real conversation with someone and I get interrupted to ask if I want more water, I get irritated. But like to me, I'd rather you just refill my water so I don't have to stop my conversation.
Which is why I feel like
No,
there's a
even if you're
difference
irritated by
on
it.
the drink.
yeah. Even if you're irritated, it's like, you're still a respectful, polite person who wouldn't
Who,
like,
me?
be rude to the.
That's an interesting point, though. Would there be a difference for you between the water glass, which is unpaid for, and your paid for drinks?
Yes. Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Anything that I would have to pay more for, you shouldn't automatically do. I agree with that.
Oh, yeah. Definitely.
And then I don't know, sis, I've never been a
Sure.
attitudes coming in there.
Oh, it's lovely. When people tell me my name isn't real. It's great, yeah.
That's rude.
Especially
Wait.
I work at a Middle Eastern restaurant and I have a Middle Eastern name. And you're gonna tell me my name isn't real?
That's incredibly
I
rude.
think you're like saying a fake name.
Yeah. I'm like, no, my name is Sosie. I'm not like introducing myself as a fake name.
That's incredibly rude.
Ignorant, you know, that's just not.
What do you guys think? Have I done anything on this that's gonna blow your mind? Like, oh no. Hey, did your calculator give you a degrees of freedom?
Yeah.
You should write that down too. Thanks, Mr. Hinkle. It's really good to see you today.
Thank you. It's good to see you all today.
You're more than welcome to stay and learn more statistics with us.
It's quite fun.
I'm sure you have nothing else on your schedule today.
No, honestly, I would love to.
Alas. I love
So
Mr.
it's
Hinkle.
not the mean difference.
Now it's the difference between the two means. And it's a subtle difference in language, but it is actually kind of important.
Yeah.
But when you think about it, this was the difference, we used the difference between these two sample means. Here, today? Hey, you guys, take out that sheet we were looking at yesterday. Or will you please take out that sheet we were looking at yesterday?